before the diagnosis, it was like, oh, I just can't do this because I'm a garbage human being, right?
Right,
And those are
right.
two very different ways of looking at the problem.
How's it going, Chris?
Hey, I am sleepy. Summertime sleepiness, is that a thing? I'm not sure.
It might be like a dad thing. I don't know. I
Might be.
wake I wake up. It could be summertime though. I do feel like I've been out a lot later at night and doing a lot more stuff. So maybe I'm just tired. But I also, have kids, as do you, and like, I just do go go go. Summertime is
It
like
has
a
been.
go 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 time of the season.
Yeah, I think that I like walked into this in May thinking like, oh man, it's summer, you sit on the porch and you
Yep.
have a drink and you listen to the peepers, you just, all those things. And it's
Yeah.
none of those things. It's been packed for me every day, I think. I've had two just like nights to myself this
Yep.
summer, and they were delicious. They were great. They were perfect. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been packed.
We literally this last Saturday, it was like the first Saturday we didn't have anything on our calendar. And like we were like, hey, we're gonna hang out at home. And like I spent some time sitting on the deck and I was like, this is glorious. And the weather was perfect. I was like, this is fabulous. I wish I could do more of this. And yeah, and then things kind of ramped back up. But whatever. It is what it is. I think like, yeah, I can understand the sleepiness,
Yeah.
definitely. Um, I can honestly say I'm very excited about today's conversation because I don't think we've had a chance to kind of really connect too much, and you're by far one of my favorite Drupal people. So
I
I
feel like,
figured,
man, maybe last time I saw you was at Engage, maybe.
yeah.
Then
No, you were at it was Evolve Drupal. Were you at Evolve Drupal Boston? Did you do that one?
no, Leslie went, but I didn't
Leslie
go.
went. Okay.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
I had kids, so
Yeah. Yep.
not
Kids.
in the
They
cards
they
for me.
yeah, they do things. So how are things in the great state of Maine?
Well, I mean, it's summertime in Maine,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
it's
I
gorgeous.
love
It's beautiful.
I love summertime in Maine.
Really hot today.
I used to vacation in Maine when I was a kid. For like I don't know. My parents started going for like a week and then they started going for 2 weeks. And then by the time
Ah,
I got older, it was 3 weeks. We'd spend like the whole month of August in Maine. It was great.
ah,
Um,
yeah. Other than trying to get downtown as like a townie, and you're like, I'm just trying to get to this
yeah.
store from this
Yep.
store, and there's pedestrian traffic, and there's a lot of that. But it's like, you know, I live where people want a vacation, so
Yeah.
you know what?
I
Sometimes
grew
you kind
I
of
grew up
accept
in a
it.
spot like that too, where you're
Mhm.
just like, would these people learn how to drive and learn how we do things when it's not summer here, and just
Yep.
like, come on. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's funny because Martin Anderson Klutz
Mhm.
was visiting my hometown. Aquia had a retreat there, I think, last year, and I was like, "Hey, wait, you're right down the street from me." And he's like, "Yeah, you want to grab dinner?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, we'll do it." And he asked me, he's like, "So, what's it like growing up here and like living here and
Mhm.
and I'm like, "Well, I think ultimately I take it for granted because I grew up here and I live here and you know, I try not to because I know that a lot of people travel from very far away to come see the ocean because they live somewhere landlocked or come see, one of the attractions that we have. So, going to Maine for me always feels like, kind of like that, where it's like, oh, people that live there must hopefully enjoy it because it's one of those pretty spots.
Yeah, I do try to get to the beach in May and in September
My
when it makes sense.
my son highlighted to me that we haven't yet been to the beach this summer.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I'm like, yeah, well, there's, September. And he's like, wait, when we're back in school? And I go, yeah, you can still go to the beach in September. Matter of fact, it's better because the water's at least warm. He wasn't
He didn't get it.
subscribing to
Yeah.
that. No,
He's
he
like,
was,
what?
he was kind
But
of
it's
like,
the summer.
I
Summer,
think
you go to the
you're,
beach. Yeah, I
I
get
think
it.
you're trying to jip me there, Dad.
What really
Uh,
gets me out is like I had friends who came up from Jersey and Massachusetts,
hmm,
and that got me to the lake into the beach because
Yeah.
that was like, oh, because they're there. So I'm going to visit friends. So I did go to the beach one day.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's the other nice thing about summer. I always feel like, I mean, we try to hang out with friends, but like, I always feel like there's more pressure to like, hey, let's have a cookout or do something outdoors or like,
Mhm.
go do something fun. Um, so speaking of traveling and going to new places, are you going to DrupalCon Vienna?
I am. I'm I'm super excited. I had I was really I think I did like a LinkedIn post about this a few months back, like during Atlanta or shortly after, and
Hmm.
all the pictures were coming up, and I was like, oh, that looks awesome. And I had wicked FOMO, but leading up to it, I was like, I am burnt out on DrupalCons. Like, there's not a lot happening in terms of contribution and project browser space. Like, there's so many other new exciting things that kind of first time contributors are meandering towards, and I was like, I will let Leslie go. It's my week with the kids, so it's like I would have to coordinate something. So I just like let it go. And then I had wicked FOMO of like, oh my God, look at how fun this is. And so missed Atlanta, kind of regretted it. And now I was like, let's be sure to go to Vienna. And it also is on a non-kids week. So it works out well that it doesn't need any extra finagling. So
Fit right into the schedule. Those are always
yeah,
the best trips. Have you ever been to Vienna?
no, I think pretty much the entirety of my European traveling has been Netherlands because my best friend from high school was living out there. He's in Lisbon now, outside of Lisbon in Portugal.
Hmm.
So actually, prior to Vienna, I'm going to pack in a little bit of a trip to outside of Lisbon and see him,
Oh, that's
which will be
cool.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
I'm holding off my European DrupalCon visits for a DrupalCon in Italy. Like
okay,
I think once we get like DrupalCon Rome or DrupalCon Sicily
maybe
or
Sicily or something would be great. Yeah,
somewhere I'm gonna be like cashing in my chips to be like, okay, I'm going. This is it. Here I go. I've only ever done US DrupalCons, so
yeah. I
North
think a big
American.
thing. I don't know if this is just my experience, but I find that the European, and I have not been to Asia, I've been not going to Nara or anything, but the European DrupalCons to me seem focused a lot more on community, like the Drupal community, the open source community. There's a lot more contribution. There's a lot more people who are very interested in um, the Drupal project.
Hmm.
Um, and then the North America feels a little bit more like it's geared towards the enterprise. Like there's a lot
Yeah, it's
more.
more of a business development event.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's like this is for like technical decision makers and CEOs, and like the one in Europe has more of like a big camp vibe. So I love it. I think,
You would have been disappointed. You would have been disappointed in Atlanta because the um so I've felt for a couple of years now that the technical decision makers and the people at the level you need to be able to actually sell something to has been
mhm.
kind of like slowly decreasing at DrupalCons.
Mm,
And I was under the impression that Atlanta was going to kind of be like a return to like, hey, I'm the CTO of this company, or hey, we're this company and we use Drupal a lot, and I'm the decision maker that's keeping us on Drupal. Um, but I don't know that there were a lot of those people there.
mm,
And DrupalCon Atlanta, not saying anything negative about that. I mean, DrupalCon Atlanta was great. Atlanta as a city was fun to see and go
mhm.
to, and the Coke factory. I don't know if you've ever been there, but
Oh,
you can taste some interesting versions of Coke.
huh.
There's there was one from um, somewhere in Asia. I don't remember where it was. That is like some plum flavored Coke, but it tastes like
Mhm.
barbecue sauce.
Even more interesting.
And it
Okay.
was like it was oddly tasty. I was like, this
I
does taste
might
like
I might go back for more of this, like
yeah, yeah, like oh, this does taste like barbecue sauce, but it's
barbacoke.
not bad.
Eh,
And then there was another one from I think it was from Greece, maybe that was pretty tasty. But anyway,
I,
um,
my employee yesterday, he's born and raised in India. He's here on a visa, on a work visa. So he was in the office yesterday and we were talking about Kit Kats. And he said that like Kit Kats in the States come from Hershey, but Kit
mhm,
Kats everywhere else are like a Nestle product or something.
mm,
And so they're very different Kit Kats in the States versus out of the States. Even if you get the like regular one, it's very
yeah,
different even in Canada. But I remember hearing like in Thailand, there's like green tea Kit Kats
yeah.
in Eastern Asia and stuff, and there's a lot of interesting Kit Kat.
Same thing with
So
Oreos. I hear there are a lot of different Oreos
mhm.
outside of the U.S. I will say on food quality outside of the U.S. I early last year, or maybe yeah, it was last year. I was traveling in Dublin, and I was there for work. I went a couple of times, and man, the food quality outside of the US is impeccable. Like that was one of my things. Like the second time I got to Dublin, I was like I was eating like I don't know. I had an English muffin or a muffin of some sort and like put some raspberry jam on it and I was like, "Wow, this tastes like raspberries as opposed to like just like sugar." I'm like,
And
"Yeah, yeah."
preservatives and
I'm like this is amazing. Like so anyway,
I went on an Aikido and meditation retreat in the Netherlands, and I remember breakfast being such a very different experience altogether. It's like there was bread and fruit and cheese
yeah, yeah.
out, and like no, there's no like peanut butter to put on his toast or anything like
No
that.
cereal.
Very,
You're
very
not getting
different.
like
Yeah,
you're not getting Rice Krispies there or anything like that.
maybe some hot cereal, but yeah, it was good. It was like, but like that same vibe of like Whole Foods, I guess. I don't know. Like it's bread and
Yeah.
cheese. It's simple ingredients to kind of like make it up. It's not like a cinnamon toast crunch where there's like
It
45
is
ingredients coating a flake of some kind of grain. Huh.
it is interesting to think like I do love like breakfast in Europe. Just because it's like it feels it's simple but complex, if that makes sense. Like I feel like there
Yeah.
are a lot of different choices and it's just like here you're like, oh, I'll have a bagel or a sausage, egg, and cheese, or like some sort of big thing. Um, Jumping back to the DrupalCon thing, are you talking at DrupalCon, Vienna?
I am. Yeah. Yeah. That's a big part of the excitement is a presentation that I'd actually kind of proposed a time or two ago of how to like build your own source plugin for Project Browser. So, you can right now browse for recipes. You can browse for and the recipes plugin is a little odd. It's kind of like the recipes that are already pre-installed in your code base, which works great for Drupal CMS.
Hmm.
Um, I'm working on right now actually the contrib recipe browser. So to actually go on Drupal.org and search through all the recipes and download and apply recipes the way you can do with modules today. But you can actually create your own plugin. It's just using the plugin system. So I was going to review the API, talk about how those plugins work and how you can create your own. So if you're an organization, for example, that wants to like only allow like these 250 like vetted modules
Hmm.
or your own curated set of recipes, like
Mm.
you're a maybe you're doing a distribution at a higher ed institution where all your clubs can
Hmm.
turn on, 5 or 6 different features. Like, will you have events? Will you have whatever? And you can just lock it down so that yes, you can turn on these dozen recipes or not, and it's up to you. So,
That's that's
yeah,
a
that's gonna be fun.
that's amazing because like the last client I worked for had a use case for that definitely. It was kind of they were using a Drupal distro, their own custom distro, but the
Mhm.
distro had a lot of kind of bloat in it because there were like they just enabled kind of everything that they thought you needed and it wasn't kind of that catalog select service sort of model that you're talking about. And I think like if they had the ability to build that, they would definitely or should have definitely gravitated towards that.
And it's probably, it's been kind of possible for a while, but it's not been. This is the first time we're gonna like get it out there to the community and say, like, you really can do this. It's endorsed. Here's how you do it.
Yeah.
and it's good. And I think, again, like a more technical talk is a great fit for Europe.
That's cool. So it
Yeah.
gets you to Europe, gets you talking about kind of project browser. And that was actually one of my questions when I was thinking about our conversation today. I was kind of like, what's going on with project browser? I feel like it was all the rage to, in pre Drupal CMS, and now
Mhm.
it's there in Drupal CMS. And I know that like you're kind of doing the recipe browser thing too, which is definitely cool. But like where is it? Where does it stand? What's on your roadmap?
Yeah, cool. What's interesting is like what kind of happened to it is it like got good at what it does, right?
Mm.
Like it kind of got quote unquote stable, except it's still in beta, but not for long. So our next release, we intend to actually have a 2.10 and 2.00 candidate for project browsers. So
So does
we
that does that does that correspond to Drupal CMS 2.0, or is that like are
uh,
those two things not kind of the same?
they do, but only sort of coincidentally. So we just released beta 3, which will be the version that ships with Drupal CMS 1.2. And then we're doing some stuff for stable to support Drupal CMS 2.0,
Mm.
amongst them the recipe browsing. A lot of what's happened has been totally behind the scenes. We've been cleaning up. This module evolved from a proof of concept into something that was actually kind of used in production with proof of concept code behind it. And
Yeah.
so a lot of what we've done is refactor the internal and external facing APIs to just make it cleaner, make it behave better, and just make it a lot easier to work with, especially as a developer. So now that
Are
we've kind of stabilized those, we're like, okay, I think we're kind of on our way up
you're like,
there.
all right, now we can start feature enhancements. Are you still hot on Svelte?
I personally am still hot on Svelte. I There's no indication that anyone in the community, has any necessarily like issue with it. Even core committers, if we end up kind of working towards getting core inclusion. Um, I was a little nervous when Experience Builder was like, and we're doing it in React. And I was like, okay, well, that decision, there's Svelte over here too, and that's kind of got a precedent. But they were like, no, this is what we know, um, which I get and I value. But at this point, I don't know if it matters if we're in core. Like
Yeah.
Drupal CMS has changed the game. I'm sure I've talked about this before. Even on Talking Drupal, I've talked about this before, I think. So
Mhm.
I'm just um, I was like, for a good portion of Project Browser's time, I was stressing like, how do we get into core and what do we do? And that's
Yeah.
definitely an obvious goal. And now it's not. And it makes things feel a little bit more relaxed, and it makes me feel a little bit more empowered as well, because I'm comfortable saying like, this is a stable release. Like we think it's great.
So
And I don't need to run that by so many other people, which is nice. And having a stable release means we will be able to opt into security coverage as well. So
yeah, I mean, all that stuff seems to make sense. So like one of my, I guess a question there for me is like, so if we decided to go with Svelte as a Drupal core thing, could Experience Builder be converted, or at least the front end pieces
mm,
of Experience Builder converted to Svelte, and then vice versa? Like if we decided to go with React as the native, could we convert Project Browser to that, to React
yeah.
as opposed to Svelte?
Yep. And I probably can't speak as intelligently in the other direction. Like I don't know how XB Experience Builder's architecture is.
Sure.
Um, but our architecture is like really quite decoupled. So like this is not probably something I'll be talking about in my talk, but like it's just using APIs to communicate project status. Like
Yeah.
it is a completely decoupled front end. So there's no reason that somebody couldn't create a project browser in React with a completely different UI and make that a contrib project. And it
Right.
would depend on project browser, and it would call the same backend APIs to fetch projects, activate projects, download projects, call package manager. Like
Hmm.
we have a web API to do those things. So it's incredibly decoupled. We could we could easily decide to rip out Svelte and replace it with React.
Hmm.
And if we did, that's probably how we'd do it. We'd make a separate contrib project
Yeah.
where we just wrote the front end, and then at some point we might merge it in. Yeah.
And we'll dig a deep hole and bury this conversation in there so nobody gets that idea. Maybe we'll go the other way.
I won't mind if they do. If they do something better and cooler, then hey, it's open source. I think it's let's stand on the shoulders of giants.
I mean, I agree. I just in my head, I'm like, oh, if we could standardize on one thing, then we're all focusing on one thing as opposed to two
Right.
separate things. And like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it better? Is it worse? Who knows?
And I like that. And I think that's definitely a question that will come up a lot more if both of these things strive for core inclusion.
Yeah.
But again, the relief of like kind of feeling like I can stay in contrib. Well, it's contrib, so I can just I want it in Svelte, it'll be in Svelte. I can say that I don't know Adam Globus Honix like front end chops. He's incredibly smart, capable, amazing developer, and been a huge help to us on Project Browser. But the other day I was like, did you imagine that you'd be a Svelte developer as well while you're working on all this stuff? And he's like, nope, never in a million years. But it was pretty easy for him to grok Svelte.
Yeah.
And I know that
Huh.
I don't know if I don't know what the situation is in Experience Builder, how easy that stuff is to understand. Curious to know.
Yeah. I always look at React and I'm kind of like my brain's, and I've worked on a few React projects and my brain just kind of like, I'm like, okay, I get it. It makes sense. Like I understand like what you guys are doing and how you're using APIs and connecting stuff, but my brain always melts a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, it is a different paradigm from what, especially like, seasoned PHP veterans like ourselves are used to. It's very different. The whole front end JavaScript world is quite a bit different.
I think you're the first person to ever call me a seasoned PHP veteran. So I appreciate that.
Good. That's probably the first time anyone's called me that as well.
I self-proclaimed. I just got off of a recording of Talking Drupal 516 where we talked about Drupal CMS and recipes. What's the status of the recipe browser in Project Browser? Next to how does that terminology work? Is it in Project Browser? You can browse for recipes as well. Is that like?
Yeah, let me think of that. So Project Browser enables you to browse different projects of kind of any kind.
So
And then the
module or
plugins,
recipe.
Yeah, the plugins define what are you viewing, right?
Got it.
So
Okay.
there's modules from Drupal.org. That's a plugin.
Yeah.
Like I said, someone could write a plugin that are approved modules from Drupal.org for my organization, right? Where they back it by a spreadsheet or a YAML file or something. And then there's right now a recipes plugin that is recipes that are currently in your code base, right? And so the one that I'm working on is recipes that are available on Drupal.org. So that's the one that I'm currently working on. And there was a while there where we didn't know how we were going to host recipes on Drupal.org.
Right.
And so we couldn't write anything because there's nothing to query. And then a few weeks ago, maybe just a month ago, I was noticing that someone had put up a recipe browser on new.drupal.org where you can, there's a web interface where you can browse for recipes. I'm like,
second.
So this might exist. We might have decided. And so we did figure out that recipes are general projects on Drupal.org. So they're not theme projects and they're not module projects. They're general projects, but then if they have at least one release that has a type of Drupal recipe, then we can find them and say that these are recipes that are installable.
That feels weird to me. Like, shouldn't it be a theme, a module, or a recipe project? Like what other types, I guess, are there? I guess I never looked at that.
And I think, and I will not speak for anyone at the association, but I think logically that's what I would have done, create a new project type called recipe project type.
Yeah.
But I think that we're actually, I say we, they, I don't know. But my theory is that they're trying to actually converge just down to one type where there's a type project.
Yes,
Because,
that makes sense.
and the other thing is that um, there was something with like general projects go to NPM, so they're easily able to be picked up by Composer or
Oh,
NPM.
okay.
There's something, so there is like some technical things around
So like a
the general
packagist
project.
management
Yeah,
issue thing.
yeah,
Got it.
packages versus NPM and needing something like because recipes are like meta packages or something like that. There's a big technical cloud over here of like
Hmm.
there are some good reasons why that happened and I don't understand them fully.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but their recipes are general projects. One thing that I discovered that was really great is that they're using the categorization system that we came up with from Project Browser for categorizing modules. So we are sharing that vocabulary of like,
That's
this is a
cool.
recipe related to access control or e-commerce or search engine optimization or whatever it is.
That's
So
cool.
I really loved that I was able to see that. So yeah, I'm working now on getting the recipes from Drupal.org and being able to display them in Project Browser. It's mostly functional, but there are some technical hiccups. Like I did some dirty things in the base class that maybe should be pulled out and some of that. So it's not quite done, but there's as a proof of concept, it totally works. I can browse
Yeah,
like
yeah.
locally when I have this code running, I can browse for any recipe available on Drupal.org and at least make an attempt to apply it on my site. So
That's amazing because I think like I don't know, recipes are um super powerful, super useful. I
yeah,
recently wrote a blog post about creating like a donation Stripe web
yeah,
form on your site.
exactly. Yep.
And I in doing kind of research for that, I found that there was a Stripe donation recipe, and when I wrote my article, it wasn't ready for prime time, but last week I think it was, they pushed a version of that to Drupal.org, and I was like, wait a second, and like literally opened up my command line, was like, here, composer, and then I'm like, run the recipe. I mean, the hardest part was trying to figure out where the recipe had installed itself in my local environment. But
Yes.
once I figured that out, like I was like, all right, here we go. Like perfect. This works great. Prompted me for some information that I needed. And then like I was, installed it. I was like, oh man, I'm like, how do we, how do we make this easier for the masses? And then, as I said, we were just talking about recipes on the Talking Drupal recording, and they were talking about kind of how Project Browser allows you to install recipes that are local. So the through
Mhm.
Drupal CMS, you can go in and say, "Hey, install the analytics recipe,"
Yep.
and it'll prompt you for like, "Hey, here's you need to add your tag manager ID." And I'm like, this is cool. Like,
Mhm.
this is very cool because like the average person can now install something in their Drupal site without having to like actually go into a command line, touch code. Like, I mean,
Well, that's
for
what I was
all
going to add.
intents
Is
and
like, yeah,
purposes, know what they're
when you
doing.
got when you got prompted, you were applying a recipe from the command line, and it took some input, and you put the input in on the command line. And it's like
Yep.
we have that in Project Browser. One of the things that's actually kind of a neat feature flag in Project Browser is we actually kind of have a little bit of a shopping cart experience where you can actually add multiple projects and then hit apply and it'll install all four projects or
Oh,
apply
that's
all
cool.
three recipes. Drupal CMS doesn't ship with that. It ships with the
Huh.
max selections equal one. So you can only apply one recipe at a time or only turn on one module at a time because that is a simpler
Probably
interface
error
for
mitigation there,
yeah
right? Like,
for the
hey, if you
target
install
audience.
10, we
Yeah,
don't know how things are
that
going to
just
go for
broke
you.
something. But
Yeah,
like
yeah,
for a little bit more advanced users who just want a simpler interface to for adding modules, you can click 10. And so
yeah.
one of the new features that we actually just worked on was let's say you apply three different recipes all at the same time, but they all have input. We actually now open a modal with all three, like if all three require input, all three forms merged into the same modal. So you can It's like, oh, analytics, put in your, tag manager ID or your UA ID. And then it's like, oh, you also turn on the AI module here, put in your ChatGPT key. And, you also turn on the contact form, put in what is the submission, the email address you want the submissions to go to. And so that's all merged onto one modal form that happens after you apply all those recipes. That's like a nice little cool feature that we have.
That is super cool.
So it's really, yeah, like as soon as we get this like contrib recipe browser on there, we're feeling like pretty feature complete, where the next thing might be themes would be a cool one to install and activate.
Oh, I mean, the next thing's going to be site templates, right? You're going to need a site template
Yeah,
browser.
that's true. We're gonna have to, but that like there's a lot of technical issues around that, because we're always trying to figure out like, well, if we need to pick that sort of like prior to running the installer, then there's a whole there's like a lot of technical hurdles
There's a
there.
whole lot of
So we're trying to look at like, what if we install Drupal like at a very, very fundamental minimal level, and then the first thing it asks you is what site templates you want, and then you apply that, and maybe that comes with a theme. And then with the experience builder and the ability to even like use AI to build custom components, I think that there's also the possibility that there's going to be like a component library for experience builder, where you can off the shelf grab accordions or cards or something like that. And so, maybe a component browser is in the works someday.
So you said a keyword there. Got me thinking. Does Redfin use a lot of AI?
That is it's an interesting question. I guess I would say yes, but it's still not in any, probably not in any like new or novel or earth-shattering ways. I think that we've just sort of like engaged the GPTs, to assist with searches or assist with code writing, or I think some people, like I actually went and recently turned off Copilot or Amazon Whisper, everything I was using right in VS Code, because the tab completions, like you get that, like I feel like that quick hit of dopamine of like, oh, it's going to write all this code for me, and I hit tab and I get 10 lines, and I'm like, now I've got to erase these 10 lines. Like this isn't what I wanted to do at all. Like the prediction of like what it thought I wanted to do was so wrong that
Yeah,
it was like,
you have to basically write a prompt, or like you have to you have to be so prescriptive that or review the code so carefully that sometimes it's
yeah,
not worth the juice
yeah,
is not worth the squeeze, as they say.
yeah. I think that's exactly a pretty apropos metaphor there. And I've had a lot of luck with things that are outside of my realm of expertise, because like, as a seasoned PHP veteran like you and I are, John, when we run into a problem, it's like probably a somewhat esoteric problem. And so like GPTs, which are basically trained on like, let's just think, Reddit and forum posts and
Yeah,
problems that people have solved over and over and over. Like if we're creating novel problems, the prediction of like how you solve that problem is like pretty difficult.
yeah,
But for stuff that is like where my knowledge level is still fairly basic, it's very helpful. So
yeah,
like I know Svelte, but not the way I know PHP, where it's like it's ingrained, and I know the method names, and I know how like it's very different. So with the GPT writing a like very basic Svelte app, it was like really pretty spot on, really accurate, and I was able to coach it through helping me create this app, which is just silly. Like I play a lot of this board game called Gloomhaven, and tracking how much hit points the monsters have is tricky, and it's like a whole job. And I was like, I could make an app where you could really easily track their health and track the status of their conditions. And so I was like, let's write a Svelte app to do it. But I was able to coach the GPT through like, okay, I want like, here's my HTML markup, and then in this empty div, I want to put cards of like the currently active monsters, and it's like, okay, do that. And I was like, okay, now I want them to have a health meter.
yeah.
Okay, and here's a JSON file with all the monster data, because that's like open source available for this game. And I was like, okay, so now it's got to read that, and here's the syntax of that JSON file. And so like by coaching it through, it definitely saved me time, because I wasn't doing all the like spell research that I would have needed to do otherwise. Clearly, I'm not learning it because it's just writing it for me and it's great. And in this instance, totally fine. Like that's what I want to do. But
Yeah. Because ultimately you're not like, hey, this has to be like the best code ever written, or it's not client code where you're like, I need to know
totally.
exactly what it's doing. You're like, I just want a thing to calculate a thing. Like
Yeah, like I just want like
go
this
do
simple
that for
app and
me.
I can go click, -5 when it gets hit for 5 and it brings the meter down, like
Yep.
it was a simple app. And so it's helpful to learn something that you don't know or to find out about something that you don't know. But when you get to an advanced level, it's just like, it's like maybe it's a mid-level developer. So if you're a
Yeah.
junior, it's great. But if you're a senior, you typically don't go to a mid-level to like solve your weird,
Yeah.
complex, esoteric problems. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, I still look at it as like an assistive tool. Like
yeah,
I've it has helped me increase my blog writing output because I loathe writing blogs. So,
mm,
the last couple of blogs I did were like kind of how-to blogs, and like I
hmm,
put in an outline and go, write me a blog post about this, and it
yeah,
would write it, and then I'd take it and I'd read it and I'd edit it and do what I wanted to do, add images, so on and so on, and then like boom, you're good to go, right? So I
yeah,
mean, I don't know. I look at it as a as an assistive technology as opposed to like, those people that are like, here's the prompt, do the thing. Okay, now I'm going to take this piece of work that you've produced and give it to my boss as like the final product, right?
yeah, yeah. We're not the
Um,
attorneys citing cases that didn't exist, right? We're
exactly,
gonna,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So
I
I think
find
it's
it's really helpful as like a fake person to bounce ideas off of,
yeah.
or it's like so helpful for in like my personal life. It's like just give me a meal plan with meals that kids like for next week.
I was kind of
Like
worried there when you said my personal life that you were like asking it like real existential
it's also
questions.
my new therapist. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not a good idea. But
No, but like like I went, so probably one of the highlights of my
I will
summer
say
was
meal plans are a great idea though,
it
because
is great.
every day in my house, it's like, hey, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want? Okay, let's sit here and
Yeah,
ponder for 20 minutes.
absolutely. And same thing. So like bucket list item this summer, one of the highlights of my summer, I went out to Saratoga to SPAC and I saw Fish, and I've never seen Fish play. One of my favorite bands. And even then, like I'm not as big a Fish head as so many other people are, but you know, great show, great time. But like I was taking the RV out there with my partner, and she had dietary needs and I had different dietary needs. And I was like, and she was like stressing, like, I don't know what we're gonna eat. When are we gonna go shop? Like, what do I buy? I was like, there's a solution to this. And I was like, please suggest meals that are like work with both of these like dietary restrictions and plans. And I need something for like 2 dinners and 2 breakfasts and give me all this. And it gave me like so many good ideas. And I was very easily able to be like, all right, I'll just modify this one because I want to do like steak fajitas instead of chicken fajitas. And I was like, I have access to a flat top griddle, a Blackstone. I have it like, and it was like, okay, do this, 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 and this. And I was like, it's done. Here we go. Here's what we're eating. I was like,
You're
Ben, can you make me a shopping list for this? And it's like, yep, here you go. Sorted by like where you buy it in the grocery store. And I was
you're
like,
like, how does this menu sound?
this
Great.
is what I need.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fabulous.
So I've had
Yeah.
some real, like in my church life, I am the treasurer at my UU church. And I was like, oh, we need to do an appeal letter. Let's see how that works. And like it generated an appeal letter. And I was like, I know that there are like certain key phrases that will get people to give or donate. And I was like, and I don't have this knowledge. Like I'm not in development or fundraising. So I was like, had it write me a letter. And then I floated it by the board and I didn't say it was AI generated. I didn't say anything. And I passed it around. They're all like, this is kind of awful. Like this is nondescript. This is nothing. There's nothing personal here. And I was like, well, you're not wrong. Like it
You're like,
was
that's
too,
why this is just a demonstration of why you shouldn't use AI to write these sorts of things.
and the good news is, which is why I use AI anyways, I don't want to do this work. Like I'm
Yes.
not in development and I don't want to do it. And so someone else volunteered to rewrite the letter. So either way, mission accomplished.
Right. I
Somebody, not me, ended up writing the appeal letter.
It's interesting because I often use it again for like social media.
Mhm.
I'm responsible for a nonprofit. I'm involved in social
Yeah.
media presence, and I'm like, can you write me a post on this topic with this information? And it does it. And I'm like, all right, we're gonna edit this so it sounds right and good and like, and then we're gonna post it, and I'm not gonna think about it again. Also, I'm the technology officer for this organization, and I need to write an acceptable use policy for the email platform.
Mm.
And I'm like, AI is definitely going to take a first crack at this based on like my rubric for what the accessible use policy needs to cover, and we'll see what happens. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I'm gonna give it a try and see what happens.
Yeah, I had good luck early on. Like I leased my RV to someone for a year a few years back, and it was really great at generating a lease agreement for me. But and then what I did is I sort of shopped around what one created and put it to another one to say like, what's missing from this? And then I took that edit and put it to a third AI and
You
was
had
like,
the AIs
what's
compete
gonna hit?
against
Yeah,
themselves in some
they were
sort of like Hunger Games for
fighting
AI.
each other. Yeah, Hunger Games of writing a lease agreement.
There you go. So I'm wondering because you are the founder and CTO of a small agency, right? Um, before I continue, Patrick's doing good
Yeah,
abroad there.
yeah. He's still
Awesome.
abroad. Yeah.
There you go. I'm wondering like what your view is of the Drupal landscape. Like I feel like I've this year in particular, like at the beginning of the year, I was kind of like, yeah, Drupal CMS. And then I was kind of like, Drupal might be on the way out because people
Mhm.
are like, you know, not 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 continuing with it. We're losing market cap to Adobe and other things. And then now I'm kind of like on the way back up again with Drupal AI. So like
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm just riding the Drupal roller coaster or if my perceptions are founded, but wondering what you're seeing, what you're thinking.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I've been on that same roller coaster, it feels like. And I think that I've heard, we've heard that PHP is dead for the last 20 years, right?
Yeah.
It's like
PHP is
obviously,
always dying.
yeah,
It's
PHP is just
perpetual.
totally dying all the time. And it's not. And I think that what we're seeing right now, like this, on the other hand, this is the first time when I've sort of like feel like I believe the hype, right? Right. Like a lot of people and a lot of different people are talking about this sort of like dip that we're seeing. And like Redfin has been around for, I don't know, since 2004 or five, about 2005. We've been doing business under that name. And like, so it's been 20 years and we've always weathered all the, dips and downturns in the economy.
This is
A lot.
side note. This is why we need AI because I just did the math on that. I'm like, oh, 10 years. That's great.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never seen AI do math very well. Um, but I think, it's like, oh, there are more people concerned about this, and or I'm more plugged into the Drupal community. I'm hearing it more. So like, I really feel like, yes, there's a palpable dip in the market.
Yeah.
Um, but I look at it and I say, is this Drupal or is this industry wide?
Yeah.
And is this an economic problem or is this an AI problem? Right, where like people are actually like they're just laying people off because AI can do it, which I don't necessarily
Yeah.
agree with, as
I,
you've seen by my
I
turning
don't,
off the
I
Copilot.
also don't agree with it, but we could have a whole other conversation about that.
Yeah, but I think there is a downturn, but I think we'll also weather it. And I do feel like I'm putting a lot of eggs in the Drupal CMS basket to sort of like on the long trajectory. It was kind of like Drupal 7 was a pretty amazing product. It got really refined by the end of its life. And we went to Drupal 8 and everything that happened with Backdrop and people jumping ship, like we lost people doing that. But And Drupal CMS is the answer to getting them back and keeping all the wonderful object-oriented developer experience things we did in the
Yeah.
platform paradigm shift from 7 to 8.
Yeah.
I wish, like all things, in hindsight's 2020, I wish it had happened sooner,
Sure.
but we needed a lot of tech to evolve and get where it needed to get. So
Yeah, I mean, I think I tend to agree that like I think Drupal CMS is going to be a great gateway and introduction for people back into Drupal, and the power of Drupal. I think you know Acquia Source is going to be a useful tool to help um, you know, jumpstart, kickstart, however you want to put it, kind of some of that adoption. And I just think like the work that we're seeing with the AI initiative and how Drupal's going to use AI and what the, kind of the game plan is there with like, human in the loop sort of AI integrations. Like I think that's all very powerful and something that, their other market leaders don't necessarily have. So, very optimistic, very positive on Drupal right
yeah,
now. It's like I said, I'm on an upswing. But I think you raise a very interesting point to me, which is that like, is it an actual Drupal downturn or is it an economic, tech industry general downturn? And I think it's
yeah,
probably more tech industry general, and we're
yeah,
just kind of seeing it in the Drupal space as opposed to um, as opposed to very Drupal specific. I also think like if you look at these other platforms, I went to Adobe Summit this year.
mm,
And it was kind of eye-opening to see like how Adobe's using AI and how Adobe's doing things with kind of like site scrapers and site builders and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know, this was kind of like a little bit before Drupal CMS, or Drupal CMS was kind of in the early stages. And I'm kind of like, if we can get to this level with Drupal CMS where people can just go to a site and install it and like start dropping things into their
mm,
Drupal site and using them, like we're going to eat their lunch, but like they've kind of gotten there first. So like now they're eating our lunch, right? It was very eye-opening to me, but I think the AI stuff, I don't again want to put too much as you said eggs and all that in that basket solely, but yeah, I mean, I think the AI improvements that we're making to Drupal are definitely going to be a game changer for the platform.
I mean, have you put your hands on the agent? Like, have you spun up Drupal CMS and turned on the AI recipe at all? Because
Yes. Yeah.
and this was months ago when I did this, like early phases, and I was telling it to build me a staff content type in Vue, and I just built it. And I
Yep.
was like, oh my God, I'm looking at a view of people that
Yep.
just got built. I mean, that's earth shattering. That is cool. That
Yeah,
is
I think
that
I
is a
think one of
huge.
the things that it when I played with it initially, and now they've kind of there are other modules you can add to kind of add this functionality, but like
Mhm.
the content creation piece of it wasn't there when I first played with it.
Yep.
It was like, nope, can't create content, sorry. And I'm like,
Yep.
no, I'm like, you got to be able to do that. But now you can add like the CK editor widget, and it'll allow you to
Mhm.
like give it a prompt and create content based on that prompt. So I mean, I think that's like a step in the right direction. And I was actually just talking to Jamie this morning about doing a Talking Drupal episode on AI, but also a Talking Drupal episode on MCP automators
Mhm.
and agents,
Yep.
because I think like just those things. Like I saw Marcus did a talk about automators where he was like, "Oh, you need to automatically tag this content type. Like you can type what you want to type, do what you want to do, save it, and then it'll automatically read your body and say, "Oh, here are the existing terms that I'll tag it with. Maybe you want to create some new terms. It'll go in and do that." And I'm like, "This is amazing. Like,
Yep.
can we like that level of automation is great. Like, yes, let's start selling that stuff." So, yeah, I definitely think we're on an up we're on an incline of the Drupal roller coaster right now, and
Yeah.
hopefully it levels off for a little bit and we stay up high.
Yeah, I think
We'll see.
where I have to have a little bit of a leap of faith is like, what will, that existential, what will I do as a Drupal developer if people can do all of these things, but
Yeah.
I think it's like there's always going to be more advanced things to do.
Yeah. Listen, I struggle a little bit with the AI is going to take our jobs
Yeah,
argument because,
yeah,
like, people are always kind of have that fear, but I think that people adapt and people educate
mhm,
themselves on how to, like, be the person that uses the AI or be the person that builds the AI or is the person to like service the AI, right? So
mhm.
like yeah, I don't know. I think like we're gonna start seeing people that are gonna be very good at using it to do things like building svelte apps for their video games. And
Yep.
I think people are just gonna get I don't know. Hopefully people are gonna level up. I don't know that it's gonna take anybody's job
Yeah,
100%, but we'll see.
yeah, yeah.
Hey,
We've been using Warp AI. The Warp Terminal app?
no.
Available on all platforms now. And first of all, Warp by itself is an amazing terminal. I think I did a lightning talk on it like at Drupal Camp Florida a year or two ago, or somewhere, or was it at MedCamp? I don't know. Somewhere I did it. Warp is a great terminal app. If nothing else, it simply is the fact like you can use your mouse in the terminal, or it's like a real editor, so you can like highlight a word by double clicking it or by using like your normal, like you type in the terminal as if you were typing into like Notepad or VS Code or something. Like just that feature alone is like a killer feature, but it has a lot of AI built in. So when I'm sitting in the terminal in a project for Drupal, I was like, okay, there's a custom module in this, and I need to write unit tests for it. And I want the test to like test this, and this use case on this function. I type that into a terminal and it writes it for me with an agent with Claude code behind it. And you can plug MCPs into it. So we connected it up to our Notion, which is like our sort of internal operators manual for Redfin. It's where all our internal documentation is. So it can make informed decisions based on policies or procedures that we have by reading the Notion via the MCP, which is like so
Hmm,
the Warp AI has been incredibly kind of helpful. Now it's also done some really dumb things, the same as anything else, but um, coachable.
interesting.
Yeah,
That
you should
that's
check out
pretty
Warp.
that's pretty cool. Yeah. I feel like I heard you tell me about this at some point, but I don't remember where it was or where we were.
Yeah, install it today. Check it out. Simply the
Inter-
fact that I can like click on a word. The number of
Use a
times I've
use a
seen
mouse
people
in a
not to
reliable
use a
way at a
mouse to
terminal
get in the
window.
apply,
Yeah.
yeah, and you even arrow keys just work. They don't do like caret D or whatever when you
Wait,
and
what? No, that's
yeah,
not what I want.
yeah.
Um, hey, I got kind of a personal question for you. Um, you have ADHD, right?
Sure
And
do.
yeah, so were you diagnosed with that as a kid, or is that more? Oh, was that onset like as an adult?
But yeah, like in the last 5 years,
Oh, okay, all right.
finally, like it was that was an eye-opening time in my life where I was like, man, it felt like when you get a Tetris and like you put all four in that one line that you've been saving and it all disappeared. Like it was like, oh my God, this is why I'm the way I am. Like all of a sudden things started to make sense.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. So let me ask you a question in this way then. And the reason I'm asking is recently my son was diagnosed with ADHD, and like
Mhm.
we're working kind of through how he needs to learn, how he needs to do things, and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
But I'm wondering, like, if you were a younger you and you kind of got that information, like how would you kind of structure things, change things? What would you do differently?
Hmm. So I'd say, well, all right. So my biggest piece of like advice or the whole vibe is like you are different, your brain works different, and
Yeah.
that is okay. It is not wrong, it is not bad, it is literally just different.
Right.
And if you like, because the shame that comes with it is so brutal.
Yeah. And
And
that's,
so,
yeah.
because like teachers who are like, don't, you can't do X or Y, and it's like, but do you understand that if you let the kid doodle or play with a fidget toy, they will actually learn it?
Yep.
It's not that the fidget toy is distracting them, it's
Hmm.
that the fidget toy is enabling them.
Yep.
Right. And so, of course, you don't want it to be distracting for other people. You can't have some loud clicker, but like there are things you do. Like, God, even just thinking about it now, the amount that I doodled in my notebooks and didn't take notes is probably a testament to why I got good grades, because I
Yeah.
was able to. This is totally my theory. I don't know if this is backed by any kind of science, but like I feel like when you have ADHD, you have a baseline level of sensory inputs that you always need to have. And so, like, it can be very hard to just do one thing.
Yep.
So, the way that you focus on something is by adding something else to the puzzle,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
It's 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 really wild to think that, but
It's interesting you say that because like we are navigating kind of that school environment right now where it's like, okay, what do you need
mhm,
to be successful? And to be fair, we haven't expressly told my son that like you have ADHD because we don't
mm,
want it to be
a
you know
stigma
a,
out of it. Yep,
a stigma or a crutch or a
yep,
like obviously his teachers know, obviously the school knows, right? His
yep,
doctor knows, right? We know. But like it's not something where we're like we want to like hyper focus on the fact that you have this thing, right? Because like you
mhm,
said, it's just a different way of learning, you
yeah.
know, you know,
And yeah, I think that's very different between kids and adults, because I think as an adult, and there's a lot of people who a diagnosis is hurtful to them. For me, oh my God, thank you. I can put a label on it. Now I know what to research. Now I know how
yep,
to figure out like the labels are very helpful for me. The diagnosis was incredibly eye opening and
yep,
helpful for me. It helped me because I knew there was research on this topic.
yep,
Before it was just like, I wonder why I can never like remember to go to meetings. I remember why there's no events. Like I can't, I was so bad at all that stuff. And I was just, when I had a diagnosis, I was like, oh, there's a reason why I can't do this. Before the diagnosis, it was like, oh, I just can't do this because I'm a garbage human being, right?
right,
And those are
right,
two very different ways of looking at the problem. I
yeah.
don't know that kids it's because I had 40 years behind me before that I was able to like look
Yeah,
at that with
right.
that level of intelligence.
As an adult, it makes sense. Like it's like, you know, with so many other things, you're like, oh, I can't do this. Why can't I do this? Oh, it turns out to be some sort of medical thing, or it turns out to be something, like once you know why, then you can research, then you can
Yeah.
I mean, as a kid, like I think our feeling is like as a kid, like you don't really know how to process that. And you're just gonna
Mhm.
kind of be like, oh well it's because of this and like write it off, right? As where like for myself and my wife we're like, okay, now we know that we know why, we know what the why. Now we can kind of guide and structure and build plans to help support and
Yeah.
move in the right direction. And one of the things you just said, right, doodling or having a fidget is like one of the things that's on our plan is like, hey, listen, he has to be able to stand up like during class, so like put him towards the back of the class where he can stand up and not bother anybody.
Mhm.
He has to be able to fidget. He has to be able to doodle. Like, those are all things that are going to help, definitely, help him, keep up with everybody else.
Yeah.
And it is
Yep.
interesting, specifically, stigma wise, like one of his teachers, previous teachers, what once we said we had a diagnosis, ultimately immediately jumped to medication and
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, good, he's going to get medication." And we're like, "No, no, nope.
Mhm.
Like that's not going to be the first place we go." that's going to be something where, maybe if we need to get to that point, we will. But like right
Hmm.
now, we're just going to kind of see how things work out. And we're going to see like how his brain develops and how he's
Yep.
able to like build, his own kind of routines and pathways and coping mechanisms to be able to say like, okay, this is how I need to do things.
Yeah. And I think, and again, my experience between children and adults, you know, I have adult experience. That's mostly it. Um, but medication changed my life. It really absolutely changed my life, for the better. Um, but that's not to say that everyone needs to be on medication
Yeah.
and whatever it is. I think my therapist, the phrase that she uses that I think is so helpful is this phrase called external scaffolding.
Hmm.
And I think that is something that really, when I understood that is something I need, then again, I was able to say, like, let go of the shame of it or whatever. So
Mm.
external scaffolding is the idea that, like, you need to accept that you're not going to remember X, Y, or Z.
Hmm.
So what you need to do is build a system that will remind you, that will do the thing
Yep.
for you.
Yep.
Um, so I built, and for me, because I'm a tech hobbyist, so in the morning, through Home Assistant and my TV and a small mini computer that I plugged in, I set up an open source project called Magic Mirror.
Hmm.
And it comes up in the morning, has a beautiful wallpaper, has news headlines, has the weather, time, date, and then across the bottom, it has my week calendar. So that every morning when I'm laying in bed staring at the headlines, I'm also looking at boom, boom, like,
Yep.
here's what I need to do this week. And that's one way to remind myself. The other thing I did, I set up iOS shortcut that goes through my work calendar. Actually, no, it goes through my calendar and sets an alarm for every single event I have that day, because I will get hyper focused on something. And then I was like, oh, it's 1:07 and I was supposed to be recording Talking Drupal 7 minutes ago. Right. And
Yep.
so the alarm goes off. And when the alarm goes off, it's like, I should be doing something right now. So if I'm hearing this alarm and I'm not doing that thing, I got to drop whatever it is I'm doing. It shakes me out of it. So, like,
That's
that's external scaffolding. You need reminders where you don't have to rely on your own head, because it's not
yeah.
reliable.
It's interesting. Yeah, external scaffolding is a great way to put it. I back in the day, Stephen, Nick, and a bunch of other people were in a book club, and we read this book called "Getting Things Done."
Oh, huge fan.
And
It, way
literally,
too complex, but yeah.
the big joke is that I never actually read the whole book, but I just kind of listened to the book club and read certain parts of the book
Mm,
that were interesting. So like I'm a huge believer in like that external scaffolding, as you put it, to say
mhm.
like, okay, well, I'm gonna go through my inbox every morning, and the things that are in my inbox are actionable, and I need to do something with them, and the things that aren't in my inbox are garbage, so I'm gonna throw them out, or I'll create a reminder that says, hey, I'm gonna delete this email, but next week you're gonna remind me that I need to do this thing because I need
Yeah.
to do it, right? And like the reminders app, my email, my calendar, all of those things are like pivotal, and that external
Mhm.
scaffolding you're talking about to keeping me like moving forward and moving in a direction. So yeah, the external scaffolding is definitely an interesting way to put it, and pivotal to getting things done.
Same as the old trick I learned at my first job, where if you have leftovers from lunch and you want to remember to bring them home, put your car keys in the fridge on top of the leftovers. That's like an external scaffolding trick, right? It's like, oh, I can't get in my car because I don't have my keys. Where are my keys? Oh yeah, I put my keys in the fridge so I remember to get my leftovers.
That's awesome until you get to a certain age where you're like, shit, I can't remember where I put my keys. And then you're like, somebody finds them in the refrigerator, and then they're worried about you because they're
Yeah.
like, how did your keys end up in the refrigerator? And
What's going on, John?
you're like, no, 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 I put them in there on purpose, I swear. They're like, sure you
That doesn't
did.
sound better.
Sure
Yeah.
you did, Grandpa. Hmm. Right.
That's the truth.
Um, Awesome. Well, this hour plus has flown right by. So
Yeah.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate, as always, the conversation because yeah, I don't think, look, as we said at the beginning, things get busy, and then you don't have these types of conversations. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking the time and chatting with me today.
Yeah, we razz each other plenty, but you're good people, Picozzi, and I always look forward to seeing you wherever I can. So I'm sad that I won't see you in Vienna. I will definitely be at NedCamp, so I'll see you there at that latest.
There we go. I look forward to that. And, I'm sure maybe you'll be at DrupalCon Chicago.
Hope to.
Maybe we can grab
Yeah,
some pizza.
yeah, that'd
I
be
hear they
great.
have good pizza out there.
Yeah, I love
Um,
Chicago.
I will also say that what was I going to say? I just had something I was going to say, and now I totally forgot what it was. Seeing you. Oh,
Was it
oh,
about
oh.
razzing each other?
No,
Because
no, no, no. Well, yeah, it was the razzing that triggered it. But thanks for your help on identifying my email, my website email issue.
oh
Um,
yeah, cool.
I did write a blog post about that. I made
I
sure to
saw
give you
that.
props for calling that out. But I was like, oh yeah, look at that,
The
Chris
larger
Wells.
concern was when I saw the post and then it was like, oh, well, SendGrid got rid of their free tier. And I was like, oh, that kind of stinks because a week ago I signed up one of my clients for the SendGrid free tier. So
Really,
that's a
you were
kind
able to do it a week
of,
ago because they stopped. They
I already
stopped.
had an account, but like I
Um,
had, so I don't know. It
So
still
they
seemed
gave you the
available to
60-day
me.
trial, and so it'll work for 60 days.
Yeah, maybe it will, but
Yeah.
clients good to pay. So whatever,
There you
we'll make
go.
it
Well,
happen. And I was like, uh-oh, let's
glad that
find
all
out.
worked out.
It's
All
been
right.
good, John, always.
I gotta get some lunch, but
Good plan.